France, for me, is a leading example of how we should all be making wasting food unacceptable. Too Good To Go is all about fighting food waste. We want to inspire everyone to fight food waste together, whether it's through our app or in their daily lives. And our vision is exactly that. You know, food waste is a huge global problem. The way to maybe understand that is that a third of all food produced is wasted. That's the scale of the issue we have. Food waste accounts for 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That means that if food waste were an emitter, like a country, then they would be the third largest emitter behind the USA and China. So food waste is a huge problem. And what Too Good To Go is doing is using technology to give people a really simple thing that they can do every day to stop food from going in the bin.
Wow, I'm quite struck by the figures that you just mentioned. It's enormous, actually. Would you mind saying a few words about how technology could contribute to tackle this issue, and how do you use it actually in your core activity on it, perhaps on a daily basis?
We have the technology there to solve many of the climate crisis problems that face us. I think technology can play a massive role in helping, specifically in helping us reduce the volume of food that's wasted across the supply chain. Whether that's kind of data and insight that we get from technology to really be able to manage the supply chain and reduce waste, or like us at Too Good To Go, a technology that connects consumers with food surplus at partners and allows us to bring those two together and, in essence, put food in people's bellies and not into the bin. I mean, I'm sure you've heard lots around, there's simple executions like ours, and we want to make it very simple. We want to make it very scalable, which is why we're in so many countries. But there's also more nuanced work, which is happening around machine learning to monitor freshness of produce and give options to food that's already available to be reused in the supply chain. So it's really technology on many levels. There's the ultra high-end kind of groundbreaking technology, and then there is the simple, effective technology that just needs adoption and awareness, like Too Good To Go.
Well, I think that's fascinating, and I think it's quite important to make sure that we can change behaviors as well, which is not always very easy. Perhaps if you had to pick perhaps one big effect of your activity on food waste, what would it be? I mean, in terms of impact, could you just perhaps tell us, pick one example of your achievements actually?
Yeah, I mean, maybe here it's worth just a reflection on the global impact. So, because as I said earlier, we are a simple technology, we're not trying to be clever, we're trying to make small changes easy. Globally, we have 38 million users, 90,000 partners. In France alone, there are 9 million users and 18,000 partners. And the reality of that, the translation of that is, for the UK, we have saved 4.4 million meals from going to waste since we were created. And in France, that number is bigger. In France, we have a huge impact. We're looking at 24 million meals saved. So the volume impact that we can have is very big. And it comes on the back of that, exactly what you said. And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is we want to create behavioral change. And behavioral change for me comes from simple steps rather than huge leaps. And that's maybe where the biggest impact is these small steps. And globally, we've saved 95,000 tons of CO2 equivalent from being emitted. So it's a real passion point, whether you look at it in terms of the meals we save or in terms of the greenhouse gas equivalent that we are saving.
Thank you. I think that's very interesting, especially ahead of COP26 that the UK is going to host in next November. Perhaps if we move on, I've seen that you've launched recently a campaign named Look, Smell, Taste, Don't Waste, which is actually highlighting the lack of information around date labels. And I think I found it very, very interesting, because we don't necessarily think about it when we buy products and when we throw it away in the bin. So could Could you just perhaps tell us a few words about this campaign and where it is, now, where how did it work, and yeah.
Sure. And I mean, this for me is one of our core campaigns on behavioral change. So we're trying very hard to give people some really simple ideas of trusting their senses at the end of the day. So as a chef, that's what I used to do. We have a process in the kitchens where you look at products. You don't necessarily look at the best before. You look at how fresh do they feel, how fresh do they look, and how fresh do they taste, of course. So that's what we were trying to translate. And this comes from some research. So the research we did says that 10% of food waste in Europe is a result of date label confusion. So you pick up the product from the fridge, you look at the best before date, and instead of looking, smelling, and tasting, you throw it in the bin. We don't want that to happen. So we are trying to educate people that for best before dates, they really are just that. They're just saying that the brand believes that the best consumption is before this date, but it can also be good after. And this is what we're trying to really get across, which is best before is not about safety. Safety is defined by a use by date. And this confusion has led to a lot of food waste. And also it's a shame because all this food is such good quality, and we none of us wake up in the morning, I think, wanting to waste food. It just happens maybe from an understanding and an awareness perspective. So we try to raise awareness on look, smell, taste, don't waste. It's out there on many foods now in the supermarket, and you'll see the label and the prompt that says look, smell, taste, don't waste, and Too Good To Go is mentioned there as well as a way to remind people of what it's all about.
As I just mentioned, the UK is going to host COP26 in November, and as you know, France passed a law in 2016 to fight food waste by banning supermarkets from destroying unsold food products. I just wanted to have your thoughts on what states are currently doing. Are they doing enough, or could they do more? And if so, do you have any proposals to help different states and public authorities to do more and to do better?
It's really important. It's really important for me that we understand that we have personal responsibility. As individuals, we can make choices, but there are ways that governments and governing bodies can make a difference. And France, for me, is a leading example of how we should all be making wasting food unacceptable. That's the bottom line of all this. Is we must, as a society, create a sense which is you should not waste food. It's unacceptable because there's people, energy, resources going into it. So don't waste. And I think France is a great example of that. And in the UK, there is currently a consultation running on mandatory food waste reporting, which we are very supportive of. We wholeheartedly support it. We are signatories of it. It's only when we know the scale of the problem and that we have to report it that we will see a step change in the implementation of solutions to fix it. So I'm very supportive of mandatory food waste reporting. I really like what France has done and made it truly unacceptable. And I think that would be good to see in more countries. And kind of, I wanted to maybe bring it back as well. So, the UN General Assembly outlined their vision of halving global food waste at a retail and consumer level by 2030. It's a big ambition, but it will only happen if we turn that into action. And I hate using the word legislation, but guidelines and governance, that means we can hit that target. 2030 is not very far away, and we have a long way to go. So we think that the approach is probably one which comes city by city and region by region, rather than necessarily at a national level, because at a city level you can control waste. That's the organization is happening at a city level. So we are very much in line with that. And COP26 is a chance for the UK to lead the way and for other countries to come along in terms of putting food waste directly on the agenda. There's an interesting, I'd love to tell you that there's a project called Project Drawdown. I'm sure you're aware of it, where some of the world's leading climate scientists came together and tried to prioritize the actions we can take. And the number one priority they set was reducing food waste in terms of combating climate change. And I take that to heart, and I feel that COP26 must have a very strong representation of food waste being a huge route to reducing the impact we have on our climate.
No, that is very interesting, and I see that we still have a long way to go. But if we do our bit at state level and individual level, I think we can make some improvements.
Absolutely. So for me, it's very, very clear that the core message here is respect and love the food that we eat, that we buy, and don't waste it. Use every trick in the book, whether it's planning your diaries, eating seasonal, or using apps like Too Good To Go. Don't waste the food. Love it, respect it, and that's the way we should be treating this very precious resource.